Hi, my name's Larry Reagan. I'm the facilitator on the X-Files Jam project, and it's a pleasure today to be with you and with our organizers, Dr. J.R. Ryo from Penn State and Dr. Kurt Winkelman from the Florida Institute of Technology. We're talking about the Jam event happening on February 8th, 2020 in Melbourne, Florida. In our last interview, you both shared a bit of information on the other two technology classes, multimodal learning and personalized adaptive learning, and a little bit about how that might affect STEM education. I'd like to use this session to explore the remaining two. We hear a lot about augmented and virtual reality, and of course the hot button topic of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And so our minds are open. How might we apply these technologies to STEM education? So maybe JR, if you don't mind, I'll start with you. Can you help us define augmented and virtual reality a little bit, and where and how it might apply to the educational experience?
Augmented reality, or also called AR, is a way to enhance your experience of interacting with objects around you by layering digital imagery over the real world view. So, you've seen these people wearing goggles, or I guess the best example is Pokemon Go. So there is this app called Pokemon Go, and you've seen people looking at their phones, trying to look for these Pokemon characters while walking and so on. So that, I think, is a great example of a real-life AR application. On the other hand, virtual reality, or VR, completely shuts out the real-world view. So you're really immersed into this virtual environment. So that's, I think, the biggest difference between AR and VR.
Can you help me understand a little bit about where or how we might use this in STEM education? Or I often hear you say in education broadly, it doesn't have to be just STEM, but how might it apply?
A good example of using VR in education is these virtual site visits. It's expensive to take these field trips to remote locations. Exotic places, Hawaii, Europe, and so on. With the help of VR, you can visit any place in the world.
Can I still interact with that community? If I see a turtle swimming in Hawaii, can I still interact with that object?
It all depends on how sophisticated the technology is, but most of the times, I don't think you can really interact with these objects in your virtual field trips. But in some cases, there are some limited capabilities, but we don't know what the future will bring to us. We have these anatomy books, for example, and just to make everything more realistic, you can turn them into some kind of a pop-up book, right? So in the case of these storybooks, you may be reading your book, but you may put your phone, on top of your book, and you all of a sudden see these 3D characters popping up. And they may be using a QR code to do that, and other types of technologies to make that happen. But already these things are very common out there.
Kurt, that leaves artificial intelligence and machine learning for you. Help us. I hear them a lot. I'm hearing them on the news and being talked about by big data companies. What do these terms mean? Are they different? And I know I'm asking you for a 30-second explanation of a huge topic, but just help us a little bit understand what artificial intelligence, machine learning means, in particular for this project.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, and machine learning are technologies that complement other technologies that we've discussed, like personalized learning and cross-reality. For instance, an intelligent education platform might contain chatbots that answer students' questions about an assignment, or they could tutor students on preparing for an exam. The chatbot would learn from the students' responses and modify its algorithm so that in the future it provides more useful interactions and better answers for the students. So we have a system that sort of learns from its own experience as it interacts with students. Another use of AI is for assessing student performance. Traditionally, faculty might assign a project or a test to determine how much a student understands about a subject. The project gives students a chance to demonstrate the authentic task, but it's often hard to grade, especially if it's a group project. An exam is easy to grade, but it's a very unrealistic setting for evaluating student performance. Life is not a multiple choice exam after all. If we use AI, we can measure students' performance on the project much more precisely and in much greater detail, so that we get a more holistic picture of what the student knows about that subject, without having to have the follow-up exam to have the student answer questions and tell us what they know.
Kurt, in the last video, we talked a little bit about personalized and adaptive learning. Sounds to me like these things are closely related. Are we using AI and machine learning in systems that literally learn as the student is going through their experience and making adaptations?
In limited ways, we are doing that now, but there's a whole lot of room for growth. Currently, a student might answer homework problems that are assigned by the faculty member, but then the homework system itself grades the student's work and then assigns maybe a few extra practice problems based on which things the student got correct and which ones they got wrong. But that's a very rudimentary sort of intelligence system. We would expect in the future that there'd be there'd be a lot more detailed feedback from the system, and the system would provide more tutoring and guidance beyond just giving a few extra homework assignments.
I appreciate both of you sharing your insights and your definitions. And I would imagine when we're gathered for the jam that we'll be taking a little more time to talk through these technologies, maybe even have a demonstration or two about how they work.
I'd like to add that one of the purposes of this jam is to take what we currently know about uses of AI and cross reality and some of these other technologies and find out what students really think they're going to grow into. And so we want students to have ideas and be creative about the future uses of these technologies, not just how they're being used right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Kurt just said, and the students have to be, forward-looking, and they have to be very imaginative, and I think that's what they should aim during the competition.
Well, thank you both for being with us this afternoon, and we do look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you.